Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Here we're going to discuss why XRP isn't undervalued or overvalued. And it's actually about at the right place if you really look at everything around it. So, first, we're going to discuss why it's not undervalued. You know, we're talking about in terms of right now, not like 10 years from now. So, if you actually look at where XRP is in the rankings, it's actually number 3. And some people say, that's too low. But you have to really look at the two coins above it to really judge it. Yes, like everything below it probably should be below it, but the things above it should probably be above it. Let's take a look at number 1, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the first coin, as by far the most brand name, and it's actually being utilized more than any other coin, probably more than all the other coins put together. Now, you might say, well, brand name shouldn't really count for much, but okay, if you just take a regular shoe and sell it, you can sell it maybe for like $30. If you take that same shoe and slap a Nike logo on it, now you can sell it for $100. So don't tell me that brand name has no value. Brand name has lots of value. And in the real world as well. So Bitcoin's brand name is extremely valuable in the name of crypto, in the world of cryptocurrency. In fact, that brand name might actually be worth more by itself than all those other cryptocurrencies together, regardless of their utilization. Second, Bitcoin has the most utilization of any coin. If you look at Venezuela, you look at Chile, you look at Argentina, you look at Turkey. When these currencies kind of start faltering down, their citizens turn to cryptocurrency sometimes, but the one they turn to is Bitcoin. So the use of Bitcoin to actually transfer money it still outweighs the use of anything else, because a lot of times that's the only thing available. It is by far the most liquid coin right now, and it is the one that's available in most other countries. And plus, like, Bitcoin's non KYC, like partially non KYC AML stuff to those countries actually does help it, because it does let them go around their government. Now, the governments don't like it, but they really can't stop their people from actually using Bitcoin. And I don't really know, like, and some of those like third world countries, I don't know if they really want to restrict their people from using Bitcoin. But you've heard that people from Cuba transferring like $10,000 worth of Bitcoin a month using BTC to actually circumvent some sanctions and actually feed their families. So whenever you hear like of third world countries actually using, being forced to use cryptocurrency because they don't have access to USD or because the government's oppressive or whatever, you always talk about them using Bitcoin. And that's why, like Bitcoin transactional values, whether it's via BitPay or this or that, or just like people sending money, is actually going to be much greater than all the other coins right now. I think they're saying like there's about $1 billion worth of Bitcoin being transacted for non-speculative purposes each day. Not really sure if that's true or not, but that number, even if you divide it by 10, is much, much higher than any other cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin, like in terms of like market brand value, in terms of like utilization, and third in terms of investment, if you look at Grayscale Investments, they have a Bitcoin fund and then they have like a large cap coin fund. So the Bitcoin fund's like 10 times as big as the large coin cap fund, and that's basically completely Bitcoin. And even the large cap coin fund, it's like 60% Bitcoin, like 30% Ethereum, and then 10% everything else. So essentially 95% of institutional investment into cryptocurrency is still Bitcoin right now. So if you really think about it, even SBI, who's 10% into Ripple, is actually invested in a large Bitcoin farm. They're actually part of that Bitcoin farm in Texas now. So pretty much like if you look at Fidelity, they only have a Bitcoin trading desk backed open with Bitcoin. So you can tell from all the evidence and what these large organizations are opening with that Bitcoin is easily at the top of the perch in terms of like institutional investment. So based on institutional investment, actual utilization in the real world right now, and brand name equity, Bitcoin by far should be number 1. So it's not in the wrong position. Now, the other one that's ahead of XRP is actually Ethereum. Now let's think about what Ethereum is. Half of all these crappy coins like in the cryptocurrency market actually run on Ethereum. So you really can't say that it shouldn't be above XRP in the tier list. And plus, most ICOs, STOs, and DeFi's run on Ethereum, and they're not all small projects. If you really look at it, Chainlink, which is a pretty big project in itself, number 12, runs on Ethereum. QNT runs on Ethereum. And a lot of these other things, they all run on Ethereum. There's a lot of coins trying to copy Ethereum, somewhat unsuccessfully, like BAT runs on Ethereum. So a lot of these larger projects actually all run on Ethereum too. And not to mention like MakerDAO, SNX, and other DeFi projects, which are exploding in terms of volume right now. They're all on Ethereum. The only non-top 10 DeFi, non-Ethereum top 10 DeFi is actually Lightning Network, but it's falling out of the top 10 as well. All the major DeFi stuff is actually on Ethereum. Most of the major ICOs are on Ethereum before they move off. And some of them, like Chainlink, have decided to stay on. And even the STOs, like I've looked at a graph recently, most of them are on Ethereum, despite Tezos being a challenger. So because there's hundreds of thousands of projects, many big ones that run on Ethereum, Ethereum should be number 2. And then you're already at number 3 with XRP, and you should actually be above everything else. So Bitcoin and Ethereum actually should be above you. So you're not really, undervalued. Now you can say like, oh, because of future potential, I'm actually XRP is actually undervalued, but future potential only goes a certain way. And the thing is, like, your utility right now, like your coin could actually work at like 2 cents for the volume of utility that you're processing right now. So being 14, 15 times that right now, people are already speculating you up 10, 20 times. And that's true with most cryptos. So you can't say like it's undervalued because people aren't willing to speculate you up anymore. After you hit a certain speculation ceiling, especially with a really risky asset class, and this goes for all cryptos, because even Bitcoin shouldn't be at $9,000 based on utility value, and Ethereum shouldn't be at 257 either. It's just that you really can't say like speculative value should be higher, because the market really determines speculative value. And the market is willing to speculate you at 28.2 cents. If there was really demand driving the price up, the whales really couldn't keep it down. The fact that the whales, like, if the whale theory is true, the fact that the whales can keep it down at this price really just means there's no demand value, not enough demand value above this price to drive your price up. So if you look at the basics of Bitcoin and Ethereum, they should be above XRP right now. And as for everything else, they should be below XRP. Now, why isn't it overvalued? I've heard analysts say that, it would work fine at 2 cents or 1 cent or half a cent. While that is probably true, like I said before, a lot of any market is going to be driven by speculative value, even mature markets. If you look at the S&P 500, the Dow Jones, and the stock market, a lot of it is actually still driven by speculative value. Yes, there are stocks that give dividends, and there's value derived from that, obviously. But if you really look at it, there are a lot of stocks that don't have dividends, and that's basically like speculating on how much the company's worth. Yes, there are earnings reports, so it's more solid than crypto, but still a lot of what drives the price in the stock market is still speculative value. And like I said, it's really hard to say you're under speculating it or over speculating it, because realistically, like, people will speculate at whatever the hell price they want. And plus, you can't say XRP is like undervalued, because you have garbage like Bitcoin SV that's almost half the value of XRP, and that's basically like an empty shell. So you can't really say XRP is undervalued either, because besides Bitcoin and Ethereum, I really can't think of another project that is actually quite as developed as XRP and has the partnerships and utilization. You could argue for you could argue for Cardano, but Cardano hasn't released their mainnet yet, so you can't really argue for that right now. You could argue Binance Coin, I think, and you would have a case there, but Binance Coin, I think, is not going after as big of a market, and I think Binance Coin is going to be slightly less speculative value in how much Binance actually does. Now, if you're talking about actual utility right now, BNB might actually have more negative actual utility because of the exchange. But I think like the speculative value for XRP, because it's going after a bigger remittance market and money exchange market, would actually be higher. So there is a reason that XRP would be above BNB. Now you could say VeChain, but I would argue that honestly, like, XRP still has more institutional investment than VeChain right now. And plus, I would say like it's more that VeChain is undervalued more than XRP is overvalued. So because of like, you look at everything like below it, and XRP, I think, is better than most or all of the coins below it, but it's also not quite at the level of the 2 coins above it. I would think it's exactly in the right position. Now, many people would argue, well, crypto as a whole is undervalued. That's very, very hard to argue, because realistically, everyone still transacts in fiat. All the stores take fiat. My gas station takes fiat. ATMs, you can withdraw fiat cash. Target, Walmart, Amazon, they all take fiat. So cryptocurrency is definitely still more of a side thing, and it's not like mainstream yet. So I think like, yes, maybe like $300 billion is an undervaluement of the entire crypto industry. But like I said, most of that's speculative value, and you really can't say like people are under or over speculating it. People are just speculating it on where it is. So based on that, I think XRP is in the correct ranking in the crypto world at number three. And I actually do think that the crypto market speculative value is where it is at a certain reason because no one is willing to buy it up anymore. So that is the news for today. Let me know what you think, like and subscribe, and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.